Your coworkers think you hit a hidden lottery or inherited a secret family fortune, and frankly, it is becoming difficult for them to hide their envy. They watch you during the morning chaos, the frantic emails about mounting bills, the panic when the office printer breaks, the collective anxiety when an unexpected car repair is mentioned, and they see you standing there, utterly unmoved. You don't join in on the venting sessions. You don't wince when the word inflation is whispered in the break room. You simply sip your coffee, unbothered, while they wonder how someone on the same salary can seem so profoundly disconnected from the financial struggle that consumes everyone else. They assume you have a trust fund. They assume there's a safety net woven from ancestral gold waiting for you in the background. The truth? You have no trust fund. You have no secret benefactor. You simply spent the last few years trading the illusion of status for the reality of total peace. Imagine this scenario. It is Tuesday, 5:30 p.m., and you are driving home through a torrential downpour. Suddenly, your car shudders. The engine light flickers like a warning flare, and the vehicle rolls to a dead stop in the middle of a busy intersection. The old version of you, the one who lived paycheck to paycheck, would have felt the immediate, cold grip of panic. Your heart would be racing, not just because of the danger, but because of the math. You would be calculating the cost of the tow, the parts, the labor, and the inevitable overdraft fees that would follow. That version of you would be mentally subtracting groceries from the next 2 weeks just to afford the repair. But today you simply pull out your phone, call the tow service, and listen to the engine rattle with a strange, quiet detachment. You aren't afraid because you have already accounted for this. You didn't just save for a rainy day, you built a fortress of liquidity that makes this inconvenience nothing more than a minor scheduling error. This is the power of the absolute peace fund. Most people treat their finances like a high-wire act without a net, where one gust of wind, one broken appliance, one medical bill, 1 hour of lost productivity sends them spiraling toward disaster. They call this living, but it is actually a form of chronic, low-grade trauma. By choosing to prioritize an aggressive emergency buffer, you have effectively opted out of the modern panic cycle. You're not just saving numbers in a digital ledger, you are buying back your own nervous system. You are purchasing the ability to remain calm when the world around you is screaming. This is the ultimate luxury, far more valuable than any designer watch or luxury vehicle you could have purchased with that same capital. Let's be clear, this isn't about being stingy or depriving yourself of joy. It is about strategic allocation. Look at your lifestyle choices over the last 12 months. How many of those purchases were made to impress people you don't even like? How many were impulsive responses to a bad day or a social media trend? When you stop pouring your resources into the bottomless pit of lifestyle inflation, you suddenly find yourself with a surplus. That surplus is your freedom. It is the raw material used to construct your wall of indifference toward life's inevitable glitches. When you have 6 months of living expenses sitting in a high-yield account, the tone of your entire life shifts from reactive to proactive. Consider the psychology of the trust fund persona. When you know that you are fundamentally secure, you move through the world differently. You speak with more authority in meetings because you're not terrified of losing your position. You make better decisions in your personal life because you aren't forced into short-term compromises by long-term financial pressure. Your coworkers sense this shift. They see the calm, the steady eye contact, and the lack of desperation, and they project the only explanation their minds can grasp. They must have money from somewhere else. They cannot fathom that you have simply mastered the art of paying your future self first. Building this foundation requires a ruthless audit of your daily habits. Start by mapping out your survival number. This is the absolute minimum amount required to keep your roof over your head, your utilities running, and your basic nutritional needs met. Do not include subscriptions, dining out, or vanity projects. Just the core cost of existence. Once you have that number, multiply it by 6. That is your target. That is your absolute peace threshold. It might look like a daunting mountain, but remember, you're not climbing it in a single day. You're building it brick by brick, dollar by dollar, through the mundane, repetitive act of choosing your future over your current impulses. Automation is the engine of this process. If you rely on willpower, you will eventually fail. Willpower is a finite resource. Automation is a system. Set your bank account to automatically divert a portion of your income into a dedicated savings vehicle the moment your direct deposit hits. By the time you see your balance, the money is already gone, moved into your sanctuary. You learn to live on what remains, and surprisingly, you find that your lifestyle doesn't actually suffer. You adapt. Humans are incredibly resilient creatures. We adjust our consumption to match our available resources. If you lower your disposable pool slightly, you simply become more creative with your leisure time. There is a profound, quiet satisfaction in knowing that if your employer decided to terminate your position tomorrow, you wouldn't blink, you wouldn't scramble, you would simply take a deep breath, assess your next move, and continue your life exactly as planned. This level of autonomy is what the rest of the world mistakes for inheritance. They see the result of your discipline and attribute it to luck, because acknowledging your discipline would force them to confront their own lack of it. They would rather believe you were born into a safety net than admit that they could have built one themselves if they had only prioritized their own autonomy over their perceived image. As you continue to grow this fund, you will notice the panic threshold in your life moving further and further away. Things that used to be crises, a flat tire, a dental emergency, a sudden price hike in groceries become mere administrative tasks. You handle them with the same boredom you feel when checking your email. This isn't just about money, it is about the reclamation of your time and your mental energy. When you aren't spending your evenings worrying about the what-ifs, you can spend them focusing on growth, learning, and meaningful connection. Let's address the elephant in the room, the social pressure to keep up. We live in a culture that incentivizes display. We are encouraged to show our success through the things we own. But consider the difference between looking successful and being secure. The person driving a leased luxury vehicle is often one paycheck away from a total breakdown. The person standing next to them, wearing simple clothes and driving a reliable older model, might have enough liquidity to thrive for years without a single shift of work. Which one is truly the master of their own destiny? The fake trust fund isn't a lie, it is a mirror. It reflects a reality where you are no longer a servant to your bills. If you're just beginning this journey, do not be intimidated by the 6-month goal. Start with 1 month. A 1-month buffer is enough to change your perspective entirely. It is the difference between living in a constant state of fight or flight and living in a state of controlled observation. Once you reach 1 month, the momentum shifts. You realize that you can do this. You realize that the math works. The discipline becomes a habit, and the habit becomes a lifestyle. You stop feeling deprived because you're finally being fed by the security you're creating for yourself. Think about the last time you felt true, unadulterated stress regarding a purchase. Maybe it was an unexpected medical bill or a repair that cost more than you anticipated. That feeling of tightness in your chest, the racing thoughts at 3 a.m., that is the cost of living without a buffer. Now imagine that same bill arriving, but instead of the tightness, you feel nothing, a mild annoyance perhaps, like a mosquito bite. You pay it. It is gone. You move on with your day. That emotional transition is the single greatest return on investment you will ever experience. It is worth more than any stock market gain or real estate flip. This path also forces you to become an expert at identifying useless consumption. When you have a clear goal, the goal of absolute security, you start to view your purchases through a lens of, will this help me reach my peace, or will it delay it? You stop buying the third pair of shoes, the expensive streaming services you don't watch, the takeout meals that add no value to your health or your soul. You begin to curate your life. You keep the things that bring genuine fulfillment and discard the clutter. You essentially become the architect of your own contentment. Your coworkers might never understand. They might continue to gossip about your inheritance or your secret windfall. Let them. Their confusion is the price of your tranquility. While they are busy trying to project an image of success, you are busy building the architecture of a life that is actually successful. You are not playing their game, you are playing a different one entirely. You are playing the long game of personal finance, where the ultimate prize is not stuff, but the ability to say no to anything that does not serve your purpose. As you reach your 6-month goal, the feeling is intoxicating. You look at your bank account and you don't see numbers, you see a shield, you see the ability to walk away from toxic environments. You see the ability to pursue work that actually matters to you, rather than work that merely pays the bills. You see the ability to help others when they are in need. Not because you have to, but because you have the capacity. You have become the person who is prepared for the storms that everyone else is praying will never come. Remember, this is not a one-time achievement. It is a maintenance project. As your life changes, your absolute peace number will change. Keep it updated. Keep it funded. Keep it sacred. Never touch that money for anything other than a true emergency. It is not for vacations. It is not for investments. It is your foundation. It is the bedrock upon which you will build everything else in your life. Once you have this level of security, you are free to take risks that others cannot. You are free to fail and to learn and to start again. That is the true definition of a life well lived. So, the next time someone asks you, how do you do it? How are you so calm? You don't have to explain the math. You don't have to lecture them on high-yield savings accounts or the psychology of frugality. You can just smile and say, I just prioritize my peace, because that is the real secret. It was never about the money, and it was never about an inheritance. It was about realizing that you have the power to protect your own future, and having the discipline to act on that realization every single day. You are the architect, the builder, and the beneficiary of your own silent prosperity.